Welcome.
Mabuhay! Selamat datang!
Tabe.
This is ECOnnected, the podcast where we discuss the interconnectedness of people, culture, and the environment with a focus on Southeast Asian perspectives. We are Ari, Erica, Fatin, and Sumarni, a group of Southeast Asian youth bounded by our advocacy for the environment.
Each week, we will talk about environmental challenges in Southeast Asia, modern and traditional conservation methods, and ways that you can connect and tune into the environment in a time where humanity continues to lose touch with the natural world.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the ECOnnected podcast. So, today I am here. My name is Erica, and I'm from the Philippines, and I am here with my co host, Fatin.
Hi, everybody. Hi, our listeners. I am Fatin and I'm from Malaysia.
Okay, so at ECOnnected, we believe that there's more than one way to do environmental conservation and to foster sustainability. So, social entrepreneurship, for instance, combines both the business innovation and also creating a positive impact in our local communities.
Yes, Erika. So, for this episode specifically, we'll be hearing stories of two social entrepreneurs from South Asia, which is basically Philippines and also Malaysia, and how they have facilitated the provision of alternative livelihoods in their local communities, and how these enterprises have actually uplifted the community's economic and also environmental needs. So, who do we have here today, Erica?
Okay, so our first guest for today is Miss Jella Petines from the Philippines. So Jella Petines is the founder of Batang VIP, which in English literally translates to Children of the Verde Island Passage. It is a nonprofit that empowers a fishing community in Isla Verde, Batangas, Philippines through education and livelihood capacity building. So for our listeners who are not yet familiar with Isla Verde, it's an island situated just south of the Luzon Island here in the Philippines, and it is known for its rich marine biodiversity. However, it is still home to many of the Philippines' poorest Filipinos. And so, to provide long-term help, Jella runs a social enterprise called Rift Picks, and through this business, the island community is able to earn through weaving palm leaf products and hunting sea glass to produce unique jewelry. And so this empowers the fisher folks, especially coastal women who have little to no economic opportunities. The dream of Ripix is to one day help the community rise from poverty through more sustainable livelihood. So, hi, Jella, and welcome to ECOnnected Podcast.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me here.
Hi, Jella. So Jella is not alone today, actually. We also have with us Haziq Ibrahim from Malaysia. So Haziq Ibrahim is the CEO of Demi Laut, a social initiative of break engineering solutions, which modernizes traditional fisheries to uplift traditional fishers and transforming their value chain to enable them to govern the marine environment and the food security challenges that we are facing today. And if you don't speak Malay, Demi Laut literally means for the ocean. So as an engineer by practice and an entrepreneur for 5 years, Hazi has have won several awards and also mentorship, including from Shell, Google, UNDP, Youth Co-Lab, ASEAN's SEDP, and also Magic, and still going at it. So Haziq believes in the continuity of grassroots solutions through a transdiscipline and circular model. So, hi, Haziq. Welcome to our little podcast.
Hi, EcoConnected, Erica and Fatin. It's really good to be here.
Okay, so hope it's okay that we're diving right in. So maybe to begin, can you each tell us all about what your social enterprise is, like what kinds of items and services probably that you sell? and what's the goal of the enterprise. So maybe Jella can begin talking about Reef Picks.
Hello, guys. So ReefPix is a social enterprise that was created because of the pandemic. So what happened was we were already operating community-based tours in Isla Verde, Batangas, Philippines. We did like a full-blown tourism program there with the support of so many private entities. And because of the pandemic, we had to stop due to safety reasons. So in mid 2020, we thought of ways to pivot, and thankfully there was a dying weaving industry in Isla Verde. So from only four old women who were left weaving palm leaves, there are now 20 women. So we were able to make it more profitable for them by helping them access the market, especially in Manila. And we're now creating sea glass jewelry, which is made of, if you're not familiar with sea glass, it's weathered broken glass. It's created by the current, the waves, and because of time, sea glass is formed into something that's more beautiful. So I'm not sure if you could see it. I'm also actually wearing a sea glass bracelet at the moment made of rare colors. So we sell a lot of these. And I'm super happy to show you the rarest color of them all, which is bright orange. So there's only one
Wow.
in 10,000 sea glass pieces where you could find the orange one. So it's super rare. I have no idea how to price it yet, but um, yeah, we have it. So proud. Sea glass comes from all over the world, and these are historical relics, though they could be as young as 20 years old and as old as 200 years old. And there are sea glass colors that only come from the likes of Europe, like red, black, etc. And a lot of them got stopped being produced in like the 1800s, like the black one, or the early 1900s, like the red one. So if you see these colors, it's really exciting because it's very rare. So we turn these things into beautiful jewelry to sell. And my goal overall for Refix is just really to increase our income per household um on the island, because right now it's the average income per household of the fishers in the island I'm helping is less than $100. So how can you support a family of 5 to 8 people with less than $100 per month? So I really plan to at least double that within hopefully 3 to 5 years. I know it's ambitious, but I really care a lot about this island, which I've been helping for 9 years. So I quit my corporate job for this, and I'm doing my best to make it. So yeah, praying for it. Thank you so much.
Wow, that's amazing. Given that you've
Thank
already
you.
been with the community for 9 years, So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for sharing. And I really like how you say that every piece is like very unique. It's like the nature is giving you like gifts and you choose which one and then you make
Yes,
something out of
exactly.
it. That's so cool. So
Actually, I have
Thank
a
you.
question. Like, is the sea glass, is it like for only certain like beaches, or do like every beach around the Philippines have this?
I guess most beaches in the Philippines have it, but not all the beaches have it in as much abundance as Isla Verde, because
Mhm.
it's right in the middle of a passage where the currents are strong. So
Oh,
because
okay.
it's rich in marine biodiversity, it's also rich in sea glass diversity. So the currents from all over the world go through it. So we have glasses from different parts of the world, and it makes it sort of a treasure trove of sea glass compared to most beaches in the Philippines.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing, Jella.
So Jella's one is a bit more like product based, right? So I would like to go with like Haziq. How about like demi laut? Can you tell us more about demi laut, and is there any items or is it like more on services? And what's the goal of the Milaud actually? To you, Haziq?
Yeah, I'm still in awe with Jala's work, the passion of using the historic glass as relics to improve the community's income. We're coming from the same perspective, but probably with less artsy touch on it. Um, yeah, it's amazing to be able to connect to different histories based on the resources that you can come across in the ocean. So on my end, we're looking at a resource that may be depleting. We're looking at how the practice of overfishing has been so entangled into the community's practice today, to a point where if we are coming up with projects in terms of trying to improve the lives of the traditional fishers, we tend to get like a 50-50 feedback out of it, because firstly, we are supporting a dying heritage, but on the other hand, are we actually contributing towards overfishing if we do protect this heritage? But it's a community's life, they depend on it. And I think it's up to us to identify, understand, educate, and then disrupt. So, we're coming in an angle where we're trying to create change, at least to those who had been overlooked for some period of time. If we are to transit them into aquaculture, or based on the understanding that we've got, in order for us to manage food security a little bit more better, we should not be dependent on coastal fishing, but more onto aquaculture. But how would this be affecting the lives of the traditional fishers? There are about 130,000 of traditional fishers registered in Malaysia alone, and they could be more unregistered ones. And I think it goes up to a total of a few millions around Southeast Asia. Um, I do find it a significant number if we do just migrate and leave them behind. And being human, I think they are doing what they're doing just because they are desperate, trying to make ends meet in their life, trying to get food on the plate, getting educations for their kids. And it's quite unfortunate to see how they are caught within this wicked cycle, we name them, you know um, being trapped without any access to financing, um, competing with commercial boats, um, being exploited by middlemen, earning up to 300% lesser, and somehow having lack of access to tools and facilities to even improve their lives. That's the wicked cycle, and probably due to this wicked cycle, they are driving themselves to practice destructive fishing. They're looking at just different ways just to make a living. So we're here. We're coming up with different experiments, iterations, models to come up with the right approach to solving this problem. So, for example, we started with a net hauling device. Apparently, traditional fishers are or have been hauling their nets through hand methods. And it's actually pretty labor intensive. They have to spend, I think, double the time of casting the net, or maybe triple the time of casting the net when it comes to hauling it, and they may require a lot of manpower, which leads them to sharing their income or earnings from each of those nets, reducing the profitability that they could have earned. And but because it's just how it works, everyone is happy to get a little amount rather than nothing at all. So um, you know, these kind of conditions are not only limiting them from uh, getting better fish, going further into the sea, casting slightly deeper into the sea, and also even considering what do you call it? Uh, Considering on concentrating less into the same area, just because of the time that they had to spend on when it comes to loading the nets. So with this hauling automated net hauling device, we call it the Pamukat no, after a name of a late traditional fisher that we have worked with. He was the designer of the product, and he thought that all the traditional fishers in the Malaysia would benefit from having this product. Unfortunately, it wasn't as easy as just getting the product across. Traditional fishers just can't afford to purchase the product that even though they need it. And this is when we have started to come up with these adventure of trying to come up with different values, either by improving their income, or be by providing access to them to finances, or by coming up with a model where they could earn somewhere, either by feeding us back the data of what they have caught for the day, or either by increasing their earnings at least by 30 to 100% within our first period of time, and perhaps then they would be able to acquire these kind of products to make their fishing activities a lot more practical and efficient. So from that idea, when we started, we are now coming up with different types of products. We are now providing micro business for traditional fisher to empower their community to rent out ice packs for traditional fishers to increase the quality assurance of their fish, further increasing the value of their fish that they've caught, reducing wastage as well. Um, Somehow we managed to reduce the price of ice pack rental in comparison to the ice cube purchasing. And we have somehow managed to reduce it by 14 times more per day. So imagine how it could help the fishes to, improve their lives and have a better market as well. We're also coming up with ways for us to empower the local communities to bridge into the traditional fishers community. I mean, we buy fish, we eat fish, we enjoy eating fish, but we never really know where it comes from and how it is being sourced. And perhaps, if we engage with them, every one of us could play a part in providing better quality fish to our, our people, our peers, our friends, our neighbors, our uncles and families and relatives. But at the same time, together, collectively, we'll be able to help the traditional fishers to, earn better. And the outcome out of it is that we would actually be targeting to reduce the pressure on overfishing by traditional fishers, because of the increase in terms of value per landed fish, rather than looking into volumes to get the same amount, of landed fish. Um, we are coming up with another product as well, which is an AI machine learning system. It allows us to characterize the species of the fish being caught, which would automate the process of listing down the landed fish of the day from traditional fisheries. We are trying to introduce the products of traditional fishers to the open market. Apparently, we found out that traditional fishers products are more fresh or fresher than the fish caught by big boats, because big boats usually would take about 20 to 30 days before they would land with those fishes. But traditional fishes would be landing day to day. Not only is it fresher, the operations of traditional fishes are more green in comparison to big boats. If you compare to the ratio of fuel being used by traditional fishes to the number of fish that they've caught, in comparison to the big boats, activities, which somehow releases more green, no, sorry, more carbon footprints. Um, yeah, there's a lot of these new things that we have come across. So we're being experimental, and we've been running a lot of R&Ds just to get to this position right now. So we're very fortunate. We've got a lot of partners. We're very we believe that we are innovative. We might just be a bit crazy somewhere, but we like to come up with many ideas with our partners, trying to come up with just different ways to allow us to create the value not only for the traditional fishes, but being a player in with the community of traditional fisheries. I think this is when we could make those changes and disrupt the current practice. So yeah, that's where the mill out's coming from.
Wow, thank you for that, Hazik. So actually, there's so much like so much meaningful things that you have said. Actually, in the Philippines, maybe Jella even has like more firsthand experience, but I've also like been able to go to some coastal communities, and indeed like there's a big problem in terms of like how middlemen exploit, how they put on so much of the price. So like the fishermen only get a certain percentage, and then the rest goes to the middleman. And actually, it's amazing. It's okay to be crazy, especially if it means like it can bring new innovations for the local fisher folks. Because here, I think we've also like done the in terms of the ice chest, like because really the wastage of fishes is really one of the big problems. And however, I think we haven't done the AI machine learning. I'm not sure if Jella has some efforts on that already, like characterizing the fish catch, but that's amazing. And I think maybe later on we can like, I don't know, exchange like this experiments that lead to success in terms of increasing the income of fisher folks in your country. Maybe we can also apply it here in the Philippines. Yeah.
Oh.
Sure, Rika, yeah.
So moving on, I think our listeners would also want to know like how it actually started, especially when it comes to like a social enterprise. The first step or this first step is like basically the hardest. I think, which I don't have my own special enterprise, which you can comment later. But how did you both of you actually come up with the idea? Was it like being part or being mingle with the community for a long time? Like, how does it actually start? And maybe we can start with Jella, because you briefly mentioned about having to, I mean, mingling or being part of the community for 9 years. So that's a very, very long time. So what was your starting point like, Jella?
Okay, I'm not sure where to begin because it was very organic. Um, so I don't know what you call it in English, but the locals call me the sort of hobo of the island because I just really, I just hang around there. I started off as a fisheries researcher after graduating BS Environmental Science because I focused on coral reef communities. So I got to know a lot of fishers because I was assigned to interview hundreds of them all around the country. And what I noticed was they were so nice, like super nice. And it's weird because how can you be so generous when you have the least in our society? There was this one time, so I'm just gonna be a short anecdote. Um, my boss said, "Okay, our budget is so small, we can't afford to have you sleep in accommodations, informal accommodations. So you're gonna have to knock on the doors of fisher folk every 2 to 3 nights and sort of ask if you could sleep over." And I'm like, okay, so we're basically like homeless people asking poor people if we can sleep over and then just compensate a little bit of money. So I got used to I actually learned some dialects because of this job. And then I went so yeah, that's what I did for a year. I went around asking, "Hey, is it okay if I sleep over? Like you don't know me, I don't know you, but is it I?" And then they were so nice. So they were actually very intrigued about me because I was from Manila. I was not dark skinned. I sort of looked Chinese, which is foreign to them, and they wanted to learn about me. And I was like, "Alright, that's cool. As long as I have somewhere to sleep and eat." And then my research partner and I, one night, we slept over at the fisherman's house with three kids. So like there's five of them, the mom, the dad, and three kids. And then they served us like a pound of rice with three pieces of dried fish. And where I come from, so it's a military family, we're not allowed to leave a single grain of rice because we're gonna eat it in purgatory. That's what my grandparents tell me. So I tried my best to finish it with my friend, and I felt so bad because I could not because there was just too much rice. And then I told the family, I am so sorry, I cannot finish it. And they were giggling and they said, it's okay, we're just happy that you're full. And then did we know that the whole family would split what was left of what we ate. So can you imagine what I felt when,
Oh
when I found
no.
out that this
Oh,
was gonna happen? And I told my friend, "Oh my God, they're such horrible people. Let's not ever finish the food ever again." And then she said, "Yeah, okay, let's do that." And then, but at night, there were only two rooms, right? And then the whole family wanted to sleep in one room, and then they gave us the other room, and we had this reverse tug of war with the electric fan because it barely spun to number one, to be honest. Like your eyes could still follow the blades because it was so weak. And then they
right.
said, please have it because you're our guests.
Oh,
And I said, all right. Oh, it's just 2 nights. And then so we got it right. And I think I reflected on this for quite a long time. And I was like, had they knocked on our doors, would we have done the same?
mm,
It's like I don't think so. And what's sad is that these people, right, have the least, and we live in a third world country. And I guess for me, knowing them for quite a while, I think this generosity comes from a place of knowing what it's like to have nothing and trying
right.
your best to avoid that pain for others because you know what it's like. So so I guess this whole journey of helping fisher folk and turning down high paying jobs throughout my career, is really just trying to give back to that sort of mentality they've been giving me, this that compassion, and trying to spread it as well to other people through the brand. And I'm cool with I'm cool with the financial struggles because it's very rewarding. um I'm doing my best applying for grants. I'm not a management student or anything, but if you care a lot, you kind of go a long way. And I guess this is where it's all coming from. And I guess for Reef Picks, again, it was just really a pivot, trying to make do with what we have. And what we have is the skill of the weavers weaving, and we have sea glass, so we'll make the most out of that. So that's where it all started for me.
Right. I think I'm also as from someone from a suburban area moving to like a more rural area. I also see that like from the fishing communities and also like indigenous people, like they're very the hospitality is like superb, like A plus. Like it's crazy, like they're very very generous and don't mind showing you stuff like behind their backyard, for example. Oh, this is an interesting plant, for example, and I'm like, oh, I didn't ask, but thank you. So yeah, they're very nice. So thank you, Jela, for sharing that with us. And you also mentioned such a big point on compassion, like the compassion that you actually got from them, that's what inspire you, and that's what you want to give to others as well. So that's great. Moving on now, how about you, Haziq? How did your story start? Especially with the Milawat.
I'm still a bit awestruck with what Jala had just shared.
We're all awestruck with Jello's experience.
It's an amazing experience. In fact, it made me feel like I'm not an alien that much after what I've gone through now. Because it's sort of, we're curious, we're ever learning. We don't want to stop at just yes or no. We want to try to figure out what's the root cause, what's really going on down there, and that drive that Jala had shared, that motivation, the prowessness. I'm just out of words to say how it's very inspiring. So
Thank you so much. It means a lot.
keep that up, Jella. Yeah, keep that up. I felt the same, to be honest. When I've started, I had a family friend called Pachino. Pachino's a family a fisher by practice. We live in Miri. It's an oil and town gas. Oh, sorry, oil and gas town. Yeah, and we live by the coastal area, so we have like a very modern, developed expatriate kind of culture. We somehow tend to, you know, be faced by the commercial lives of how a city, an urban city would be in Miri. It's like sort of like one of the most well-earning town in Sarawak, a big state in Malaysia itself. So we had like some unique, what do you call it? Exposure thing. I having to meet Pachino, in his little village down in the suburbs, about 1 hour away from the city, where I lived. Um, One of my uncle had mentioned like, hey, since you just got back from uni and you don't have much to do, was the oil and gas economic downturn that time. The price of oil had dropped from a very high price to almost nothing at all, and it was quite difficult for me to get a job. So, coming back from being a mechanical engineer, I always enjoy design, and I know that in Malaysia it's just going to be a bit challenging when it comes to getting designing jobs, because most of the time it'll be more of an operational job. But having that crack in the head, and I just um, followed an uncle's advice to just who had asked me to visit Pachino because he had spoken passionately about an invention that he had been working on. So I took that strut there, met up with him, and then had learned a bit about this pemukat, no, this automated net hauling device. He was only calling it a net hauler at that time. Apparently, he had been working on it for a couple of years, I think about for 4 or 5 years. He managed to get the attentions from the media, from the government, but it wasn't, mm, what do you call it? It wasn't growing at all. It was, he had to even sell it uh, at a low price than the cost. Basically, he had to make a loss, for other fishers to be able to use it. And he was hoping that having me to come in, I would be able to help make that difference. Um, so with that, getting those background, I was looking at product design. So what should I do? I should look into marketing it. I should look into understanding it. I should look into managing the manufacturing process. It was just a bit challenging, the fishes, Tradipat Chino, coming from his background. um, he likes the idea, but he can't quite grab, onto what it means and how it is being done. So every now and then, if I came back to him with presentations on PowerPoints or data on the cost, and how we are looking into manufacturing it with a 3D model design, he likes it, but he just feels a bit, overwhelmed with too much information. That he would just be like, Hazik, you just do it, just do whatever you do. um, so when I started, it was in this village in Baram, yeah, Baram. Baram's like an outskirt with a lot of trees back then, but there's a lot of logging issues going on, and most of the traditional fishers are staying next to like a cement uh, factory because there's a lot of sand there. And so they either are being a factory worker, or they're working in the sea as a fisher. Most of them ended up turning back, going into the sea because they enjoyed the life of being, of leading themselves rather than being in under quite an environment that could be challenging for them. So from that journey, we yeah, like how Jala had mentioned, the fishermen's very nice. I was exploring, trying to understand, you know, what this net hauler really means to the traditional fisher. What are the conditions of the traditional fishers? What are they facing? What is it like? What's the landscape? And I was quite surprised. There wasn't enough data out there. There wasn't enough study going on out there about traditional fisheries. I can't even tell whether traditional fishers are, what are their process line? How do they, are they doing all right in fishing? What are the current practice that they have, and what are the current challenges that they have? I was trying to reach out to the stakeholders, the governments, I know district organizations that manage traditional fishes, and it took them even 1 year for me to get a reply. Not even a data, not even data, but just a reply. And it felt like a very dark world after a while. Being curious, being intrigued, being excited, and knowing what it is, but everyone's shutting their doors, you know, not letting me in, making me feel like a super alien. What's wrong with my effort? Is it not meant to be? Am I here bothering your work? No, but does it not matter? Um, so coming from that angle, and I tried to like, I realized that the product cost, could be a bit more lower. I realized that the product was actually quite innovative. Unfortunately, the price was quite high. That the traditional fishers finds it a little bit too much for them to invest in, not knowing what are the certainties of the practice, or that they could improve on after having those products. So with that, we came across a roadblock. How can we sell a product to a non-paying market without having profits? And this was at about 2017 when we iterate this model. It was just so challenging, but we were lucky, I guess. We had been under the radar of Shell Life Wire, and then they started to train us in terms of how to build our own business. And the manager, Aisha, had suggested for me to look into this angle of social enterprise and sustainable development goal. And that time it was still fresh. Um, so through that, I realized like there's actually a lot of other ways that I could help these fishes to acquire this product, and not only just sell to them. And I guess they are not the only market. There are others who could pay for them, for whatever interest that they have. I just have to figure out how to make that work. Um, but with the current situation, most of the businesses prefer to buy it from bigger boats, commercial boats, just because they are more professional or reliable. I guess it's more easy to buy from one source rather than to manage a pool of traditional fishes, managing it together. So I try to restructure the perspective that I was taught by these local practices, and then I realized like, hey, what if I go crazy? What if I try to get all the air fishes in small amounts? Would I be able to manage and compete with those bigger boats? Um, what if I would be able to ensure that the practices of the traditional fishes is sustainable? Will that increase the value of the vendors? Would they appreciate, having sustainable branding to their fish, or catch fish? What if we would be able to provide a platform for traditional fishers to report on, the governance of fishing? They will be able to come up with data on the total number of landed fish, and we'll be able to reflect it in relation to the biodiversities in the ocean. And those thresholds, if we could manage it, will it actually be a better practice? And then what if we are able to provide other jobs for traditional fishers to not only report their landed fish uh, caught, but also in terms of monitoring the impacts of climate change on the ocean? Will it actually mean something? But when I started back then, everyone was like, Hazik, you're doing something crazy. You're doing a charity. You're selling your products to somebody who can't pay. You're not profitable. And Hazik, you better change your model. You better stop wasting your time. And I was probably just hence a little bit crazy. I was like, I think it could work. I think this is the only way to disrupt this. I think this is how we could make changes. I think I should begin something, and I had to steer alone. So locally, I was seen as the guy who's fanatic about doing odd stuff. And but internationally, having this exposure, and I think I hit the first international platform with Shell, Global Shell LifeWire Top 10 Innovator Award, and that's when they were training us about mm, the business model canvas, the innovation approach, the idea of coming up with hypothesis, and how we could project, communicate our work, how we could package this and turn this into a value where we will be able to acquire grants or capital or access to fundings that would allow us to increase our operation activities. We realize that the idea is all about getting interested, vested investors to have the buy-ins in our work, to allow us to continue our mission. And yeah, Jala, happy to sit down with you in any ways if I could share my experiences to help you to achieve your vision and goals, because that is where I was starting, and I'm very happy to help those with those big hearts and brains and souls to continue with their work, and help others, passing it forward. So yeah, from there, that was when the journey began. It becomes a bit more technical from here. I'll be very
Right.
happy to share these details further later on, but I'll leave it at this for now.
Right. Cool. Crazy is good sometimes. But you showed us that crazy is good. So
Yes, like there's even like a quote that says like like the people who think they are crazy, they are the ones who can change the world. So keep being crazy, Hazik, with your ideas. Maybe like one day it can really be the key to like give like the social justice that local fisher folks need. Yeah.
right.
Thank you, Erika and Fatin. Very
Thank you, Hazi Angela,
motivating.
for speaking so beautifully about how it all started, and actually you putting the people, like you putting a face to the people. Like before, when we're talking about your social enterprises and all, I couldn't imagine that who the person is actually is, that who is the community and all. But you have given me that idea. You have put a face to that. So again, social entrepreneurship, it's all about the three P's: people, profit, and planet. And you've really spoken beautifully about the people bit. So thank you.
Yeah, so like just to I guess bank on what Fatin said about the three P's, like people, profit, planet. Maybe for this one we can focus on the people aspect. So I think Jella has already like given some nice and some interesting anecdotes about the people she's working with in Isla Verde. But I think we want to know further, like because you mentioned that in your bio that it's coastal women that you work with. So are you solely working with coastal women, or do you also work with other maybe youth or maybe fisher folks? And then like prior to the enterprise, like what was their situation? Did they not have any other sources of livelihood until like the reef picks, until the palm weaving products and the sea glass jewelry products? Can you please elaborate more on that? Thank you.
Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
All right. I hope I heard the whole question. So, okay, let me describe the coastal women I work with. Nearly 100% of the women on the island do not have any source of income. And so I mainly focus on them. And this year, my goal is to get them banked. So I want them to have bank accounts with growing savings by the end of the year. And then thankfully, I think it was a couple of months ago, we were able to form a cooperative finally for these women to get them organized. and have that sense of empowerment and pride in what they do as women who are finally earning for their families. So it's a big deal on the island because it's still highly patriarchal. And then, so about 20 weavers, only nine are active at the moment because since it's just a small enterprise, we haven't been able to get as many orders as we want yet. And then from only like a handful of sea glass hunters, we I have recorded 92 individuals. And this includes fisher folk, women, and children. I'm like, am I doing child labor? Because you're not part of my idea. But why are you picking up sea glass? And then I guess when they're playing by the shore and they see sea glass, they're very sharp. They pick it up and then they also hope to contribute to the family income. So yeah, I accept that and still buy it from them. And the situation prior to me coming in to the scene of livelihood there is that they relied on aquarium fishing. So aquarium fishing is, if you know Finding Nemo, you know what this is. So those Nemos, the Dories, those fish that they catch for the fish trade, that's what they do. And they do it via free diving, which is crazy because it's high effort and high risk. And they the yield is so small given the amount of effort and time it takes to catch fish without any machinery, but the trade-off is so small. So if the middleman asks to buy it for 1 Philippine peso, which is how many centavos in how many cents in US? Okay, to give you an idea, $1 is about 58 Philippine pesos, and they want to buy it for 1 peso. um, so yeah, you do the math. It's so small. You can't even buy a piece of candy with that. So so imagine the middleman wants to buy like a small antias for 1 peso, and then even if the fisher says, "Can I sell it for 2 pesos?" The middleman's gonna say something like, "Oh, no, we'll just get from somebody else." And then of course the fisherman's gonna be like, "But I have nowhere to sell this to." So they're stuck, right? It's called, what's it called? They are socially indebted to their buyers. So they're under the mercy of the middleman. Because they do not have access to market. They have no idea where the fish goes. And the best ones actually get exported internationally. So if they buy, for example, an angel fish that's actually just medium sized for 50 pesos or $1, it could cost as much as, Erica, how much is 3,000 pesos in USD? I'm not good at with math, but it's
Maybe like
like,
$150, something about. Wait.
yeah, something like that. No, it's less. Oh my gosh, it's less. It's like 60, $70,
Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, my
right?
poor
It's
math
crazy.
skills.
So, man, I hope I'm right. This is recorded. Anyway, so yeah, the situation there is really awful. It's so awful. But like I said, you know what, just pick up sea glass by the shore. I'll pay you so much more than 1 peso per common piece, and even much more for rarer colors, so that the conditions are safer, it's more profitable, and hopefully more sustainable in the long run. Because my goal as somebody who came from the fisheries industry, I mean the research industry, is to sort of alleviate the fishing pressure in our seas. And one way to do that is to sort of divert their efforts in livelihood to something that is more sustainable. That's why we did ecotourism there, etc. So instead of extracting from the sea, they need to protect it to get more long-term benefits out of the sea. So yeah, man, I went a long way, huh? From describing the community. So yeah, that's the situation of the community prior to Refix, and at the moment, I'm applying for a grant, so I'm praying for that because I really want to train them to drill and create their own jewelry from there because I still subcontract the labor here in Manila, so that it's more direct and impactful, economy wise. At the same time, so that if we get the grant, we'll have more capital to create more stocks because there's actually high interest in our products, especially the sea glass. It's just that the companies who want to get stocks from us, I cannot provide enough inventory. So hopefully, if we get a grant, so yeah, holler at those impact investors listening to this. My name's Jella Petinas from Refix. Please contact me. Yeah, we need all your help.
Yes,
Thank
please
you.
contact Jella.
Yeah, so yes, thanks.
Oh, thank you, Jella. How about you, Haziq? Like, are you working with a very, very specific site-specific based community, or is it like a broader kind of fishing folk community? And what was like their situation prior to the introduction of Demi Loud to the community?
It's a great question. Yeah, it's a very great question. Um, we come in a micro and macro approach, I suppose. Um, every different community has different pain points, different ways of functioning, different cultures and practices, different nuances. Um, we would not want to try to fit what one community is facing to another community. So we always have this mindset of keeping it open. This is where we are, empowering the volunteers, so that they would be able to help us enrich the understanding of all these different sporadic communities, through their own perspectives, and then we will be able to fit in the right solution, according to what the problems are that they are facing at the moment. Um, so yeah, from that angle, we would go down to the ground, just try to assess any fishes that we able to connect with, to engage with. Traditional fishes, they come in different variety. Some of them has been oppressed for a bit too long that they can be um, a bit rough, or a bit rigid when it comes to being open to the public or the any other strangers in their lives. While some communities are just so used to having people coming in that they are very open, and they have these experiences on how they could grow and make changes to their lives through these connections. Some of them had been stuck in a mindset where they believe that there will always be aids coming, there will always be doles and subsidies, and I can make extra money just by playing around with these. But some of them had things change, different geopolitical conditions within their area, having limited access, and it really affects them. But yeah, if we would want to try to generalize, what are the challenges that they are facing? I do have a slide here. I was wondering if it's okay to share the screen, or if you'd like me to describe it. Please advise.
I think describe would do because this is on Spotify. Yep.
Oh yeah, all right, just nice.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, so from the from the images, you can see that there are three separations of activities: from the upstream to the midstream, and then to the downstream. So upstream would be where they are going out to the sea, trying to harvest the resources, and ensuring that they have something to trade. Going to back to the port, they would then reorganize the fish, trying to manage the distributions and logistics, trying to get the market, and hopefully there's some connection there, and that's what we would be referring to as the midstream. And then from there, then they would be making the sales, selling it or sending it to a marketer, sending it to a vendor, sending it to a middleman. And yeah, some of these things that I've mentioned are not really their current practice, because they would usually have a middleman, or they would try to sell it to their neighbors, or in the market within their neighborhood, which would in the end, be in community's price, because everyone have an access to those fish. Um, but yeah, those streamlines of our supply chain, they are facing a number of difficulties, such as uncertainties in terms of where the fish's locations would be now. Having uh, facing challenges including erosions, or developments, or just big boats coming into their area in the coastal. No matter how we have already segregate, the areas where big boats shouldn't come in, just because they have an advantage in terms of their fishing equipment. um, and as well, going down, they will also be facing uncertainties in terms of the climate, and the weather, and also the conditions of the sea. They may not have enough informations and tools to identify, how this would be going in day to day, whether it's safe to go out to the sea, or whether they should consider something else. They can't make informed decisions on what should they catch, or where should they catch, or why should they catch. I mean, in the market, in a market of demand and supply, if there's more if there's an overpopulation of a certain fish, then somehow the price would drop, to an amount which might not be feasible to them. And if they could be strategic, selecting fish that is rare in the market, they could actually make a better earning. But at the same time, they just don't know. They are not educated about other means of how they could fish, apart from just using traditional methods. And with what we are facing today, the changes are just so vast. They used to be telling us how back then, when they swim in the sea, they can just see fish everywhere. They would be swimming with the fish. And when they are catching a fish, just catching a few fish would be sufficient, because they're massive, they're big. But nowadays, they're going into the sea. Out of the 30 days they are there, they could probably just capture fish within 5 to 10 days, and then the rest is just nothing else. It's just not the same. Their market understanding as well, in terms of using ice cubes and ice packs, they're not sure why it is important. They just feel like it's a very expensive thing to acquire now in their current practice, that maybe it's just best to not use ice at all, just so that they could make a better earning. But little did they know that, when they sell it to the middleman, if they have a sort of an amount, just one spoiled fish would lead to the whole, decrease of the price of that buck of
Right.
fish that they have. And in terms of management, in terms of marketing, they just rely too heavily on this middleman. This middleman used to be, their parents working with the fishers' parents.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes in a very good mix initially, because back then there weren't enough facilities like roads, access to visit their village, that the middleman used to be using like pickups and trucks to go through like coastal mm, pathways, just to acquire this fish. So it was a good win-win situation back then. But going down through generations and exploitations, they've handed down to their son, or grandson. And at this moment, it wasn't similar. It was more of like, how can I earn more today, so I'm happy, and how could you be set with just a certain amount. So it, there's a lot of limitation in terms of sharing now. It's no more a win-win situation. They even exploit it to a point where you don't need to know where I'm selling this. All you need to know is, if you sell it to me, then you will make your money. And if you
Right.
don't, and if you lose my trust, then I can help you anymore. And I
Mm.
would it goes to a point of extortion where and now I'm going to pay for your boats, I'm going to pay for your assets, and I'm going to pay for your your stuff. You don't have to pay me back. All you need to do is just continue give me to give me fish, and probably with a lower price, and we can make it a deal. And because the fishers never had those chance of opportunities to improve their assets,
Right.
and they were uninformed. They would just be using those hanky panky stuff. Um,
Just just to clarify, Haziq, like so that means the Milaut is like providing like models that any fishing communities can adopt in that sense and see how it would fit their own way of doing things.
that's
Is that how
correct.
it works? Right. Okay.
So we came up with a thought in our Demi Ilmu project. Like, what if we are able to meet the likes of you, who's passionate about making a difference out there? We provide you with an app where you could source out to traditional fishers, so traditional fishers could report the catch of the day. And now having those inventories in your hand, you could monitor and educate them like, hey, be careful, you should take a photo of how you have iced your fish so we can increase the value of your fish. Be
Mm,
careful with this fish. Apparently, I've learned in the market it's overpopulating right now. Don't catch this fish. If you tend to just catch this fish, stop it. Go into and catch another different product. I'm more aware that the squids are now less in the market. If you catch squids now, we can actually earn better. We are providing with spillage as well. Maybe you as a volunteer could now have a certain amount of income while you're doing good. Managing the distributions from these traditional fishers who had trust with you. Trying to
right.
create a relationship with a fisher requires a lot of time. Yeah, and things like that.
There's the marriage between like modern approach and also traditional knowledge, and also like how volunteers they might not know how the traditional people are doing things, and they might not know the pachi, the makcik, for example. But this is like a bridge to for example, university students. I can imagine like university students being volunteers and getting to know the pakcik and makcik like near their area, for example, because my university is like besides the sea, so I can definitely see that happening. So yeah, cool.
I've got an interesting finding to share, Fatin, based on your sharing. So we're working with the university students in Sarawak and KL. Um, we've come across an understanding, because we've been told that traditional fishers might not want to use these apps. They might not have the buy-ins because they're not tech savvy. But we found out that the pandemic had affected them so badly that they're looking for ways on how they could remarket their products, and they're willing to learn on how to use these apps to improve them. So yeah, those are the real time studies that we are advocating right now, and we believe that it could benefit the traditional fishers in a long way.
Cool. And also giving them exposure, like the students themselves.
Okay, so
Yeah.
thank you so much, Hazik, for telling us all about challenges in terms of, for example, linking from beginning to the market, and then how Demi Laut can actually like sort of customize and adapt based on experience of each community. But now we're proceeding to for, a while ago we discussed like the challenges like faced by the community in terms of sustainable fishing. So now we want to ask you guys how what are the challenges that you like as a social entrepreneur face in doing this? So we've discussed like impacts on people and planet, and now we go to the third P, which is like the profit aspect. So um, I think Jella already has like touched a little bit about this, telling us about some of the financial challenges really and sustaining the enterprise. So we really want to know, and I'm sure the listeners would also want to know your thoughts on the long-term feasibility of the enterprise. So do you think like in the future, you can be able to like make more profit, or do you think this can like go on even if, for example, you leave the community for some reason? So any thoughts on it, Jella?
Hello, am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Okay. All right. Okay. I think I heard most of the question. So the question is the financial sustainability of the social enterprise, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. For Refix, I think I came into this with the intention of making that happen, or else I wouldn't start it at all. So, yeah, our fishers, we will subsequently be able to help our seas. That's what I believe. Um, because they wouldn't be resorting to practices that are going to, stress out our seas. And this is coming from somebody who has been observing and immersed in the fisheries industry for quite a while. If we make it as simple as incriminating our fisher folk and not providing long-term solutions, it's really not going to work out. And I really believe that if we're able to just sort of collaborate with them instead of antagonize them, then we can make a Miss Universe, a better world. And so yeah, I guess the struggle at the moment. So Refix is barely 2 years old. Um, the struggle really for me is the formal know-how in managing a business. I could say I'm pretty street smart, but if you challenge me about like what's your business model like that, I'm gonna be like I'm trying to make it work. you know like it's actually at the moment I'm doing all those stuff like um I'm consulting people who have already made it. So successful social entrepreneurs who I really idolize. I'm consulting, and the one of the I see them as mentors. So one of them said, please revisit your business model and make sure it's viable, given how you have already been operating for a year, and then her learning as a social entrepreneur throughout the years. So she's been doing this for more than a decade. She was like, I sort of regret taking in investors who would have a say in how I would do things, because they really constrained her in making things work in the way she knew it should work, because she's the one immersed in the community operations and everything. I guess she was trying to be respectful to the investors, but it really compromised the the company and its longevity. So she broke down and everything, and she said, "You know what? Had I gone back in time, I really would have preferred to bootstrap it and not have myself tied to people who would have a say on my decisions, because you should trust yourself. You're the one in there, and they're really just putting in money." So she said, the way I would have done it is by applying for grants and relying on what she say. She said relying on pre-orders, especially for, I guess, the products that people really want, the ones that are innovative and stuff like that. So I was like, oh my gosh, I could totally do that. So that's what I'm trying to do now. um I'm revisiting my business model, and then I'm applying for a grant. I might apply for another one if that doesn't work out. And then I'm taking in pre-orders for one of our coolest products. So if you check out Refix on Instagram, which is our main marketing platform, you'll see what we're doing at the moment. Um, yeah. So is there any other question related to that?
Thank you, Jella, for sharing. I mean, you're being real and frank here. So that's really great, because I think when we talk about social entrepreneurship, people have this romanticized idea of like, ooh, helping community and making profit. So it's very romanticized sometimes. So thank you for sharing the challenges.
For
Um,
sure.
How about you, Haziq? Any particular challenges you'd like to share with us, especially on sustaining the business itself as a social enterprise?
I'd like to share this piece to to some of you guys based on the learnings and that I've come across. Somehow in Malaysia, the KPIs of looking at a good social enterprise is when they make money. In fact, it feels like we are only important, we are only there, we are only doing our work if we do make money. Yeah, I know profit is important, but when you try to disrupt a certain problem that you're solving, as soon as you stuck your head onto when you make profit, you're not being disruptive. You're just capturing an opportunity and you're just hoping that you can grow out of it. What I feel like is in order for me to be meaningful, to be able to complement this community, to really identify what's going on down there, and to be able to source out different ways to solve this problem, I should focus on to tackling the monkey, rather than tackling creating a pedestal. Pedestal would be something that is tangible for others to see, while in terms of tackling the monkey who is supposed to sit on the pedestal as the outcome of a project, nobody's going to ask you how did you train the monkey to sit on the pedestal. How did you make the monkey listen to your instruction? How did you, when in fact, this path that Jella just shared, for example, is tackling the monkey, is the valuable experiences, is what it takes for us to be, able to complement it in many ways as soon as we've got these resources. So yeah, as much as possible, being in a social enterprise, the drive should, of course, be about having a sustainable way to continue with your mission. But the focus should be in terms of how would you be able to create a value that caters to this. Because as how Jella had mentioned as well, investors do come in those ways. They want to hold on to you. They've got all the money in the world. I've got a limit of $2 million, and I can only invest $2 million and with them. They've been helping us to create our project, validating our ideas, funding us, and training us so that it would work. And we would be building, a pedestal in smaller little phases while we train our monkey, and we would have the resources, the opportunity, the expertise, the understanding of growth while we do so. Um, so you're right. Focus on to validating your models. Focus on to coming up with the right angle. Don't accelerate yourself to get the equity. I know it's been romanticized that way, as Fatin mentioned. Once you have acquired your VCs, once you've acquired your investor, you're doing a very good startup. I've come across this company in Canada who apparently is working with the Inuits to plant IoT devices on melting ice caps to measure the rates of melting ice caps every year around the world. And they are actually earning quite a lot after they've settled down with the right way to do so. And helping a lot of Inuits along the way to make a living. And you see, nobody would have thought that the values, or data on how the ice cap is melting would be sufficient. Nobody even believes that climate change is real. But right now, when the time is real, when everything, when the need is there, yeah, it works, it sells, it benefits everyone, and it's a genuine cause that would allow them to move forward together. So yeah, those are just some of the advices I may have to share from a social enterprise or social entrepreneur point of view.
Cool. Thank you so much, Haziq. I think we're now nearing the end, but before we end this, I think our listeners would also want to learn more on like tips and advice, especially to those who are very much interested in social entrepreneurship. Give them real advice, not like the ones that you can be frank as possible. So maybe we can start with Jela first.
Advice: make sure your why is strong. Because if you're only in it for like awards, recognition, you're doomed. I'm kidding. It's it's really gonna get you going. If you genuinely care for the community you are helping out in your social enterprise, you're gonna go far. And I could say this for myself because again, I'm not a business graduate. I'm only an environmental scientist, but I've been I've been away from the corporate world since 2016. And I could say that, you know, you can do it. You can definitely do it if your heart and mind is in the right place and you have the right motivations. And of course, always be open minded, because one thing I think that got me through is surrounding myself with the right people who encourage me to grow, to believe in myself, because there will always be naysayers. There will always be people who will be skeptical about what you're trying to do. Even my family, I was met with some skepticism when I quit my job, but I was like, you know what? If you know in yourself what you're doing, and I'm a very calculated person, just play deaf, you know? And then it's very important that you keep educating yourself. So I'm always reading, I'm always learning from people who have already made it, or at least ahead of me in the game. And I am not shy to send cold messages um and say, "Hey, I'm a fan. Would it be cool if I ask a couple questions? I really want to help out these people." And you'd be surprised how many people are willing to help you out through your journey, because nothing will be lost if you just ask. So yeah, I guess that's it on my end. Keep learning, have the right motivation, and surround yourself with the right people.
Wow, thank you, Jella, for putting that really nicely. So, for our listeners, remember to remember your whys, and then also to surround yourself with people who believe in you, who support you, because I guess establishing or running a social enterprise is really not an easy feat for everybody. It takes courage, and we're so glad to have like both our speakers, Jella and Hasik, so courageous to be like disruptive and be crazy with ideas, really to really help uplift the communities that they work with. So Hazik, do you have any final tips and advice for other aspiring social entrepreneurs?
Yeah. To all of you out there, if you think that being a social enterprise is glamorous, think again. It's not as easy as it sounds like. um, you're going to be facing a lot of circumstances that could break you down. There will be a lot of tears that you're probably going to be shedding along the journey, and you can't just have a mindset where you could just be happy, settling down at a yes or a no. No, you have to be out there. You have to be alone. You have to crack the code. You have to know what you're doing and what you're facing, and you have to be resourceful. You have to do things that's probably uncomfortable. You have to be on the boat. You have to be out there. You have to stay and stick with them. You have to see those things that not everyone else can see, and that's probably why you're there. Um, and when you're there, once you have the understanding of what you think you could see, use those informations, those lessons, those learnings, trainings that you've acquired out there for you to apply into your perspective, and then create a new point of view. And you shouldn't stop just there. Once you have a new point of view, it will always continue, ever changing, evolving, until you come to a mature point of view. That would probably be when you'll be able to then start to operate, start to engage, start to initiate, and make those changes. Um, if again, it is difficult. If you do have this mindset, if you really are, that determined, it's good. Yeah, you may have your career, you may have your background, you may have your skills, but it doesn't mean that your backgrounds, your core skills would not be complementing, this problems that these communities are facing up there. It's just about what you could do, and always remember that it's a diversified world out there. Believe in the opportunities of looking at it from a transdisciplinary point of view. I'm an engineer. I'm working with the sea. It's a mismatch. Everyone's asking like, "Hey, Hazik, why are you in fisheries?" But if you strive, if you're determined, you could join the forums, join the conferences out there, meet with the likes of the people here, Arika, Fatin, and Jella, get exposures, just connect, like what Jella mentioned as well. Be brave. If you know of a company, if you know of a person, if you know of mentor, if you know somebody's doing some similar work, just reach out to them and share your differences, and you'll realize how interestingly it's actually not that much of a different after a while. So yeah, um, just keep on no just keep on having this awareness, keep on training on your mentality, be a perseverance and a resilient, and whatever you do, and whatever it means, your soul, your heart, and your brain, it has to be aligned. And if it's not for that aim, then maybe you should consider something else. And that's my 2 cents. Thank you everyone.
Okay, I'll jump in for one last bit of wisdom, I guess, is I think for people to be on the path of social entrepreneurship, you should be willing to accept failure better than most people, because there's gonna be a lot of mistakes. And I guess for me, it got so painful that it started to become funny because it's like one after the other. And as somebody who's always wanted to learn how to run a successful business, I always took each mistake as like bits of my tuition fee in management school. Like if there was a loss, I'd say, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And if you learn from the mistake, it's worth it. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you
Well
so
said,
much.
Jella.
Thank you so much, Jella. That's very well said. So don't be afraid of failures. And it's really, I guess, it's really like a key piece of advice, I guess, for all of us. Maybe not just for those aspiring to be social entrepreneurs, maybe even in general, like in your work. I guess don't be afraid to keep trying, to fail, because you will, as they said, you will only really learn after you fail and after you have learned from your mistakes. So, for one final bit, now is the time for you guys, Jella and Hasik, to plug your social media. So if our listeners would want to learn more about Reef Picks or would want to learn more about Demi Loud, so where should they go? So Jella.
So at the moment, our website's under construction, but you could go to our Instagram first or Facebook, Reef Pics. That's REEF space PICKS. So yeah, you're gonna see our stories and products up there. Thank you.
Thanks, Jella. And for Hazik, how do we learn more about Demi Loud?
Right, for the Milaud, you can visit the website, themilaud.com. You could also search for the social media handles of the Milaud by just typing the Milaud in Facebook or Instagram. Um, yeah, you'll be able to learn more about our activities, whether you'd like to engage with us, or you could learn about the challenges of the traditional fishes in our website. Still under development as well, but it's somewhere halfway there.
Ooh, thank you so much, Jella and Haziq. We've learned a lot from both of you. Especially we're really excited to actually listen to our own people, I guess, because when I hear a podcast and all, it's usually like very Western kind of point of view. So it's really interesting that South Asians are doing great stuff with their own communities, and we're learning about our own communities as well. So thank you so much for today.
And
Erica.
that's a wrap for today's episode. So, thank you, Jella and Hasik, for being with us. And for our listeners, we will see you in our next episode. So, bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye. Thank
guys.
you all.